Well, our next session, before I believe we're going to, after this next session, we have an afternoon break, but the next session is how to supercharge your financial marketing strategy with decisioned media. Decision media. And our two speakers here are one speaker and a moderator, looks like, right? We got, is it Chris Blinko? Blinko, I got it right? Chris Blinko, okay.
That's right.
Okay, well-traveled I am, you know. And then Kevin Fisher, is that right? Okay.
Yep.
All right. Now, Chris is with Huntington Bank, and Kevin is with the Trade Desk. So, do you guys have everything you need?
I believe so, yeah.
I think we're good.
Well, we're going to turn it over to you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks.
Great. Well, thanks everybody for being here. It's great to see you all in person. Thanks for taking the time and sticking around after that delicious lunch we just had. I'm Kevin Fisher. I'm the General Manager of Business Development at the Trade Desk. And my team works closely with financial marketers across insurance, credit cards, and the banking industries to really help supercharge the media that they're running to drive business outcomes for the results that they intend to achieve. I've spent a good portion of my career actually at the sort of intersection of media and platform-based buying and financial services. And I will say, like, over the past, say, 5 years, I've been really excited about what I've seen financial marketers such as Huntington with Chris leveraging technology and all of the rich data that you have to empower the results that you're looking for. And I'm really excited today that Chris was generous enough to join us and to talk to all of you. I'll give a brief intro of Chris and I'll let you elaborate, but Chris Blinko is the VP of Digital Marketing and Advertising Technology at Huntington Bank. And he's here to kind of help us talk about how programmatic and more specifically decisioned media has helped supercharge his strategy. So with that, Chris, we'd love to hear you talk about your job and what you do and everything else.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for having me today. Like Kevin said, I work for Huntington Bank, VP of Marketing and Advertising Technology. My core focus is really sitting on the brand growth, both from a brand media and acquisition perspective. So I work with my internal partners from the customer marketing team and then our DNA folks as well. Very, very interconnected community within Huntington, and I sit in a very, very fortunate spot to talk and experience all the brand new technology out in the world, such as programmatic media, which is always hits home for me because that's my core foundation.
It's great. It's great. And having that foundation, I'm sure you've been inundated, and I'm sure a lot of you in the crowd have been inundated with the massive amount of, I think, like industry jargon that we use. DSPs and SSPs and CDPs and DMPs. The list goes on and on. And that's, I'm sure, within the marketing departments that obviously you overlook, and a lot of you work within. Financial services industry has a ton of jargon as well. So just to, I think, level set in the beginning here, let's define a couple things. Number one, what is programmatic media? And then from there, what is decisioned media?
Yeah, I think of both of them almost the same, just like a 1 and 2 punch. So I would categorize programmatic media as the ability to find customers, prospects, audiences, people across everything connected to the internet. So in the olden days of digital media, and you want to go with a specific publisher, you do more of a direct IO, and then you only show up on their inventory. Programmatic and the Trade Desk really enables us to find our audience across their mobile, tablet, television, desktop, you name it. If it's connected to the internet, then we're able to find those qualified users. So that's what I would categorize as programmatic media. Decision media, I would say, is the human element behind that. And really, it's kind of like the marriage for me between tech and human is decision is saying, I want to find this audience, and I'm willing to pay this much for that audience, and then really enable those optimizations to really enhance our campaigns and really scale them out. So I would almost like a tomato piece for me.
Yeah, that's great. We actually, that's awesome to hear, because we often say that like it's the human plus the machine that actually empower performance. And so machines are not after our jobs. Machines are actually making us a bit more strategic and allow us to focus on the things that, frankly, a machine doesn't know.
Yep.
And thinking about like within your organization, financial services marketers, I feel like have some of the richest data sets out of the entire marketing sort of world. How important is that data set when you're thinking about like understanding who your customer is, and as you think about reaching that net new customer, leveraging that data, how important is it for you to understand?
Extremely important. Being a bunch of financial marketers, we do have a ton of information on our current customers, and less information of who the prospect should be, right? We should be looking at who our core audience is, whether it be mass media or maybe more of the premium tiers like the MMA products, and really identifying who those core individuals are that really represent our brand, and then really trying to find those users out in the internet space to really grow organizations.
And as you bring new customers on, how do you stay engaged with those customers?
Yeah, it's a great question, because as we're all familiar with, not many people switch banks every single year. I think it's just like fractions of the overall population. And the majority of the reason that people switch a bank is you typically have a bad experience, or the competitive bank would have a product that your bank doesn't have. So really, when it comes to customer marketing and making sure that Huntington is always out there and really showing the power and the new products, the new breath of fresh air, I would say reaching core audiences in programmatic audio, connected television, are definite ways to do that, and definitely programmatic display is a certain aspect that can enhance that scale to really represent the brand.
Is there anything that you've done over the past year that's kind of new, a new way of leveraging data or media, or both of them together, that you're kind of excited about, or you thought was really creative?
Yeah, so I'm excited about all this, because for the Huntington org, programmatic and more of this, decision media is relatively new. So I think it's all new to us, and we're really in a lot of test and learn situations. And we have a strong collaboration with our data and analytics department as well, to really understand the incrementality of all of these channels, all of these audiences, so on and so forth. I'm fortunate to be excited about everything that we do, because it's all new for us.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think as like our world becomes, I guess, like more digital focused, the friction that you would have, to your point of like, it's historically been really hard to switch banks. But as the friction of switching banks, I feel like the barrier to switch is lowering overall.
Yep.
And so knowing that, like, me as a banking customer, me to switch a bank is not as hard as it used to be. I'm curious, like, you need to pivot as a marketer. And I think over the past couple of years, the ability to pivot and test and fail and succeed, it becomes really important, and flexibility and control, in the conversations we've been having with marketers such as yourself, are really top of mind as you think about the marketing strategies that you deploy. So I'm curious, like, the data-driven channels that you're leveraging through the trade desk, how they help you build more of a powerful and engaging interaction with customers, and stay top of mind as they may be in that sort of mindset of switching.
Yeah, I want to hit on the first piece and echo that of it's easier to switch a bank, right? You can transfer your data and your money pretty seamlessly, as long as that other org has the right tools in place. And probably I would say that today we have more relationships with more banks than we've ever had, right? So a lot of customers might have credit card with company A, checking with company B, savings, MMA with company C. So understanding that, you really need to try to identify, hey, can we become their primary relationship? And I think your second question is more about how to be fluid with everything that you're doing, with all of your customer messaging, your prospect messaging, and really understanding where the next best dollar can go in the short term and in the long term. And I think that programmatic media is enables so much fluidity across ecosystems, and has the ability to reach so many people because everybody in this room has a phone, and I guarantee that everybody has some kind of streaming service. So as long as programmatic can touch that, and you have the ability to look at each and every one of those budgets internally and kind of shift dollars where the business needs, then I think you're set up pretty well.
That's great. Can you speak a little bit to the relationship that you have, I think, internally at Huntington with right, like the data and the analytics teams that help you make those decisions?
Yeah, so I'd say my job would be completely lost without our data and analytics partners. We really, being a financial organization, we're really good at figuring out where the next best dollar should go, right? That's, if we're not good at that, then we're not doing our jobs internally. So the partnership with the DNA team is critical, especially as we're in this digital evolutionary growth over the last couple of years with COVID. Programmatic is tough to measure, right? You're pumping out a lot of impressions and trying to figure out, hey, is this incrementality? Is this duplication of existing business? And truthfully, with our DNA team and their sophistication with the models that they built to really measure impact, I wouldn't be sitting here today with you.
That's great. I love that you call it the DNA team. I feel like there's like some sort of dual meaning.
It's honestly, it's like it's a family that we all kind of work together with.
And I'm not sure if you are right now, but I'm sure a lot of us in the crowd are kind of feeling maybe the squeeze from your CFOs or the CMOs at your organizations. As the economy is evolving, the scrutiny being put on the investments that you're making. How at Huntington have you guys sort of taken a look to prove the value of every dollar that you're spending so that, maybe your department is less of a cost center and more of a revenue driver?
Yep, that's a great question and very, very relevant to what we're in now. I would say is we definitely position ourselves as a marketing org as a profit driver and not a cost center. It's because of that relationship with our data and analytics team to really prove out everything that we do, whether it be a test and learn or incrementality via a media mix model. And we've got a really, really solid understanding of what all these channels are driving from a customer prospect perspective, long-term, short-term, so on and so forth. So it's because of that. We feel very, very good about our position, especially as a marketing org, continuing to funnel us and really grow in times of a lot of uncertainty, economically, as we kind of, everybody in here is a consumer and everybody's got that top of mind. So we feel really good about the data that we have and the incrementality and the profitability of each one of our channels.
Great. And as we've been talking about like the data and the ability to leverage that and partnering closely with your DNA team, I'm sure that's helped you enable sort of custom solutions, via the trade desk and maybe even broader beyond the trade desk. So we'd love to, hear a little bit about the custom solutions that you guys have built to help supercharge things for you.
Yeah. So this is one of my favorite things about the trade desk, to be honest, is just the ability to adapt with your clients and really listen to marketers such as myself and other teams. One thing specific, I think you guys coined this as volume control. I think so. Volume control is something where you can kind of prioritize media, whether it be inventory from a private exchange or open exchange, without having to pay more. And that's really a core thing, right? Is as we start to head into more uncertain times, those pennies need to work harder for us. So in old programmatic times or other platforms, you might have to pay $3.50 CPM to get the same audience, just to prioritize what you need to get within your platform. One of my favorite things is you can still pay $3 and prioritize that inventory and really rank where your business goals and priorities are. So that's one of my favorite things.
That's awesome to hear. I know one of the things that we're really proud of as a platform, and I think our CTO once said it best, a platform, you can't call yourself a platform if you can't be built on top of, and you can't customize your offering for all of your clients. And so it's really interesting to see how marketers such as yourself build those kind of custom solutions at scale in a custom way. Custom and scale usually don't go together, but they certainly do in cases of how you're leveraging it.
Well, that's my favorite thing about programmatic media is it's not a set it and forget it. It's a strategize, think about it. What do you want to achieve with that campaign? Get it live, read real data, and optimize that. And that's my favorite thing about the entire subject of programmatic and decision media.
Yeah, and I'm sure you've had some failures along the way. One of the great things I think about you and about Huntington Bank is learning from those failures and giving yourself the sort of ability to learn and test out new things. So just, not a question, just more of a, I think it's inspiring to see marketers do that.
Thank you.
When you're thinking about success and you're working with the DNA team, what are the things that you're looking at? I'm sure there's like the front end costs that you have, but what about beyond that? What are some of the things that you look at to say, this campaign was successful? And maybe even beyond programmatic, how does it fit in with the broader strategy?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, it depends on how you define success for that campaign, right? So from a customer marketing perspective, they might look at, email open rates or conversion rates internally of adopting behind the app login. In the paid space, we look at, again, I go back to the incrementality in our media mix models. It is really our core focus. And we're obviously profitability driven because, again, we don't view ourselves as a marketing department as a cost center. We view ourselves as a profitability center. So it's really just getting a good grasp on what is the campaign goal, and within the entire org, when you're shifting money around, where's the next best dollar going to go for the business, whether, again, be short-term or long-term when you think about that customer value.
Yeah. And holidays are upon us, so 2023 is, it's kind of crazy to think, just a few weeks away, it feels like. I'm sure you've been in like planning mode for the past couple of months. What are some of the things you're most excited about? Moving into next year.
So, for my job specifically, I love it because I get to go and just explore everything. So the top things that the top of mind for 2023 is evolution of digital identity. As we know, the third-party cookie is going away eventually. UID2 is phenomenally positioned for that, so I can't wait to continue our tests with that. So digital identity would be number one, consumer privacy number two. As we're familiar, a lot of more regulation discussions are occurring across our entire globe. And then my third one would be CTV scale and growth. I always tell people, and I true-heartedly believe this, is the customer, the consumer, your audience doesn't know if it was broadcast or digitally bought, milliseconds ago. That part doesn't matter. So it's the ability to find your audience, and as we've seen, the more of the walled gardens, such as a Netflix, kind of adopt more of a AVOD or adopt advertising within their platform. I think that's really exciting to sit here and talk about programmatic as we see it change on a daily basis.
Yeah, that's great. I had another client the other day kind of describe how they were thinking about TV and buying TV in general, and they had a side-by-side comparison of a CTV ad being shown and a linear TV ad being shown. And the question was, what's the difference between the two of these? No one could answer because as a consumer, it's TV.
Yeah.
So that's a really great point you just made.
Yep. Yep. But on the back end, there's a lot of difference, right?
Totally.
A lot of difference.
Yeah, and so with that, some of the differences, like on the CTV side, well, data, I'm sure, is top of mind there. How are you thinking about data for CTV and leveraging that data, and maybe compare and contrast that to the linear side of the business?
Yeah, so it would be about, that question for me is more about like fragmentation and the ability to reach people across all their streaming services, whether it be on Food Network or any other streaming service. So for me, it's ability to find your current customers within a fragmented market and not having to put all of your dollars towards the big guys like NBC, CBS, Fox, and so on and so forth. While you still can buy them programmatically, and you absolutely should, but I think the beauty of programmatic, especially from a customer perspective, is I might be flipping from the Food Network to ESPN to, you name it. And as long as they've got advertising within their platform, then you can reach them. And so that's, to me, what the real difference is kind of eliminating barriers between fragmented markets.
Yeah. When we're, on our side at least, we see programmatic as it's like a win-win-win between the advertiser, the marketer wins because you get to actually control the number of ads that you're showing to consumers, through frequency controls and the data that you get in streaming.
Yeah.
The publisher themselves, if you look at monetizing inventory programmatically, typically have higher yield that way. And then the consumer, you're not bombarding them with creative over and over and over again. I think all of us have probably been watching something on Hulu and you see that same ad every commercial break or even back to back sometimes. And we see the real value of programmatic is to help simplify the complexity and fragmentation of the CTV market.
Yeah, and when you break that fragmentation down, you can start to think more horizontal with the way you execute. And what I mean by that is you serve a CTV ad, and I know that I served a household a CTV ad, and then you can follow up with a online video 15-second spot, and then follow up with a display image spot. So it's that ever-going cycle of marketing messaging that you need to remain consistent and top of mind for your customers, especially in the financial market, because if you don't go with Bank A, you've got 50 other choices, and you also have credit unions. And so remaining consistent with who you're targeting across your entire ecosystem is absolutely critical.
Horizontal is such a cool way to think about it.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for spending time up here and talking through all of this.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed it.
I don't know if there's any questions or if we have time.
Let's see if there are. That was great. Okay, can we get a mic up here, please? I'm going to make you work this time all the way up here. Okay.
Thank you. Hi. Thank you, guys. That was super helpful. I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about what you're doing. I mean, we all want all of our advertisements to convert into a transaction. What are you doing kind of above that transaction layer, say kind of mid to lower funnel, and how are you tracking that? And then I was wondering if you could also talk a little bit about what else you're doing besides programmatic in the digital marketing space. Not there's anything wrong with programmatic, but it's obviously one part of the equation, and what else is working for you at this stage in the game? Thanks.
Yeah, great question. So I'll kind of lump both those questions together because I think that they're so correlated with like lower funnel, right? It's all about how you categorize certain programmatic media. So connected television would obviously, it's not an acquisition driver. It's not going to be the last touch for a lot of things. So you need that life cycle marketing. Someone just broke some glass behind me, so.
You just blew them away back.
I guess so. So you need that consistent messaging and all your digital channels to work together. Now, the problem with that in today's day and age is, a platform like the Trade Desk and programmatic media is you can reach them basically everywhere except social, right? Like social is going to be that barrier with a Facebook and Instagram. So you still need to, and Google search, right? It's that is owned by the Metas and then the Googles of the world. So that's where independent, or again, we rely on our DNA team to really identify incrementality throughout the entire customer journey, and making sure that not only programmatic, whether it be connected television or a mini mobile ad, is targeting the same user that your Facebook and Google searches as well.
And I can just add on, as we talk to a lot of financial services marketers, it's really like the ability for us to give you the data to empower you to make those decisions for your DNA team to look at that in conjunction with all of the other non-programmatic channels and technologies you may be working with.
So each financial institution, depending upon strategy, may implement various.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah, and the DNA team should be able to tell you from an investment standpoint the value of
Where the
each of
best
those
return on
platforms.
opportunity is.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's great. A great question.
Yes.
Did you get everything you needed there? Yes, thank you. Okay, another question. Anybody? Okay, we have one up here that was online for our virtual audience.
All
Thank
right.
you for posting that question. How do you maximize your revenue with an optimized mix of direct sales and programmatic advertising services?
Well, you could still, I would still say programmatic can be direct sales. I think the key to that piece is making sure that your site and your ad platforms are communicating in sync with each other and having that same data, right? So Kevin talked about having that data for the DNA team as well. That's not going to be enabled unless you have the correct tags and the way that you set up those tags and really understand your own first-party data through those pieces of information that we send to the trade desk. So it's still, you can still, sling shirts and have retail media as being the last touch point, but you need to make sure that you are informing wherever you're buying your media of that feedback loop.
Right, communicating.
Exactly. The better you get with that, then the better that the ad platform works, the better you understand how that ad platform is driving business to your publisher.
Okay, we had one more question up there too, didn't we? What's your approach to engage your audience across all digital touch points with your web platform, social media tools seamlessly?
Engage. Yeah, I would say target, like if you have a qualified audience, whether it be a third-party prospect audience or, you want to upsell checking users to a savings or MMA, leverage that audience across your entire ecosystem to make sure that they are, being seen, whether you're on your social media app or, searching about tonight's, football scores or anything like that. So what I would say is make sure to prioritize that audience across your entire ecosystem.
And can that be more challenging than it sounds?
Oh yeah, yeah. Especially for being a bank, because customer privacy is at the utmost. Like that is the gold standard. You need to have your consumers' privacy come before anything else. Because if someone doesn't trust your bank, you've lost that relationship, and there's a lot more bad things coming down the road. So in a world that we talk about identity differently, no matter what platform that we're in, it becomes a very, very challenging task. But partners like the Trade Desk with UID2 is something I'm really excited to adopt and get into that. I know we can get into technical details, but it's going to, I think, really post third-party cookie, it's really going to unify a lot of the messaging, a lot of the targeting.
And it's probably where like the DNA team is so critical,
Yes.
like the dual sort of meaning of DNA, it's so
Yes.
critical to the essence of what you guys are doing and tracking those touch points.
So if you're a smaller community bank that doesn't have internal digital and analytics, what are you doing? Not this.
I would, for smaller places, I would say get in and just test and learn and figure it out of what works within your community. I don't think that any digital form is really going to beat the in-person human connection, but you can absolutely amplify that and remind that user.
And I'd also say, like, there's a whole world of service providers out there who are built to focus on the smaller kind of mid-tail slice of the industry.
Yeah, that has evolved, and now there are resources that they can afford to utilize.
Absolutely.
That can enhance their ability to better understand how to reach their target market. For these vehicles.
Staff augmentation is a very big sort of growing piece of the industry there.
Okay, good. That's great. That's great. Any other question? Oh, we have another question here. Okay. Let's get that mic so that our virtual audience can hear the question as well. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Hello. To what extent would you say you trust smart bidding optimization algorithms of platforms like Facebook and Google, and to what extent are you taking advantage of it in programmatic space?
Were you able to hear that?
What was the question?
Yeah, it's us. We're just having a hard time hearing.
Hello?
Yeah, just go ahead and
Yeah,
turn it up a little bit. That's good. Say it one more time.
One more time, okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, thanks. To what extent do you trust the smart bidding algorithms inside Facebook and Google, and to what extent your team is utilizing similar technology within programmatic?
Gotcha. I'm just going to talk that back just to make sure. How much do we trust other, like
The
big
smart
tech-
bidding algorithms inside Facebook and Google, the machine learning-based optimization of bids.
Smart bidding within Google and
Oh.
Facebook versus the programmatic algorithms.
Okay.
Yep.
How much should I trust that? I would have trust that every platform, especially when you're talking to the magnitude of the Googles, the Facebooks, the Amazons, the Trade Desks of the world, I think you have to put some kind of level of trust in there. Now, if you don't trust it, then I would do a test and explore across multiple platforms. Where you're really going to, see that proof is do something like a third-party verification, or when in your test, make sure that the data that you think that you want to see is actually being, the creative is being shown, the audience is being targeted properly, and that really relies on your agency teams and your platform teams to really kind of QA going into it. So I would say that there is a general level of trust across all of the major platforms, at least from my perspective. But that doesn't go without saying that we QA and make sure that everything is set up appropriately.
Yeah, and I piggyback on that and agree with everything you say. I'd also add in, though, it goes back to the ability for whoever the partner is that you're working with, whether it's Trade Desk or any other partner, empowering you to validate and verify the value of the media that you just bought through that platform.
Yeah.
And so really, it's about us giving you the data for you to say, yes, this drove a certain lifetime value or return on the spend that we had, because you can tie it into all of the other media out there.
Yep.
There are some black boxes out there that you can't do that with, and you only get front-end cost metrics there. And that goes back to, do you trust that? And so there's a little leap of faith that you likely have to take with those platforms.
So a general level of trust, but still due diligence is required.
Due diligence, and I would say that your team has raised their hands and said, hey, we want to give you this data, we want to give you this data, we want to give you this data, and to your point, you don't get that everywhere.
Yeah.
So it's really the level of trust is continuously exceeded when that platform or that partner is willing to give you whatever data you want and work with you to identify those specific areas.
That's great. This has been a great session, Chris and Kevin. You've been fantastic. I think we've all enjoyed it. This time we're going to take a break from 3:05 to 3:35, and want to encourage you, I think they have some snacks and treats, if you would, over in the exhibitor hall. If you're attending virtually, I want to encourage you to continue to be online, go on to some of these virtual booths where you have an opportunity. There's so many resources there. There's videos, white papers. You can contact someone. So if you're here, go and enjoy. And if you're virtual, please take advantage of some of those virtual booths. And we will see you guys in 30 minutes. And thank you so much, you guys. Great.